Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Star Trek Wars, or should I say Star Wars Trek this week, because we are taking a trek through Star Wars, and we just got done watching The Last Jedi, and I'm actually really excited because I watched it with Connor today, and it was an awkward ride home. Well, I guess they're all awkward riding with you, but...
How did I make it awkward? Don't pin this on me.
Well, we didn't get a chance we couldn't say anything, so I'm really excited to hear what you had to say about this movie. It's very divisive among the fan group, so...
Just like politics.
Basically. So episode 8,
Connor.
The Last Jedi. Let's go ahead and jump into our pros for this movie. Connor, what did you like?
I'm kind of divided on this movie, because there's a lot of things that I really like, but there's some things that I absolutely despise. So let's get into it. I really liked Rey's actress in this movie. Mm-hmm. I thought she did way better than she did in Force Awakens.
Okay.
Because I don't think she was a Mary Sue in Force Awakens, but I didn't think she was very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and whenever I criticize Force Awakens, people are like, well, you're blinded by nostalgia, blah blah blah. Like I have problems with A New Hope, with like Carrie Fisher's on and off again British accent, the weird prequel-esque dialogue. I could smell your stench when you walked on board. Weird stuff like that. But all in all, it's a really good movie. And my problem with Force Awakens was it wasn't ripping off New Hope. That's a dumb complaint. But I think it was paying homage, but I wish that it had more of its own story. And that's why I like this one a little bit more than over Force Awakens.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked John Boyega, a.k.a. Finn. I thought he also was a lot better. He actually had stuff to do in this one. Well, he almost got something cool, but I'll get into that later. Carrie Fisher was really great in this movie. Rest in peace. And Mark Hamill was pretty good. Marky Mark.
Yep.
Mark Wahlberg is Luke Skywalker.
Use the Force.
Come on, I'm a Jedi. This is gonna be a big break for me. Come on, Kylo Ren. Yeah, and I like that. Oh my gosh, the cool red like Imperial Guardsmen with their cool like Sith weapons were really awesome because they had some
Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, the Praetorians, and they're updated from the old trilogy. And what's really cool is they have some of the weapons from the lore in Legends.
The Lord.
The lore. Yeah, they do have some weapons from the lore.
From Lord Snow.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, did you guys not know that the new Star Wars movie is made by Pureflix? Anyway, Jar Jar's not dead, he's surely alive. Well, thank you for the 5 people who got that reference. Yeah,
I am not one of them.
I'll explain it to you after the cast.
Thanks.
Anyway, so yeah, and I like the awesome battle. Oh, this is a spoiler review. Obviously, it's been I think a week.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
Don't listen to reviews of Last Jedi if you haven't seen it, unless you don't care about.
Yeah, it's
spoilers.
pretty obvious. Anyway, I really like that awesome battle sequences at Snoke's palace and not palace, but palace
chamber
ship. Yeah, his chamber secrets.
Yeah.
And they were fighting all these Imperial Guardsmen who have cool Legends weapons. It's pretty cool, like the cool Sith whip thing. It's also pretty
those
awesome.
Are cool.
Yeah. And I like that. I like Kylo Ren a lot more in this one and I didn't know where this was going, the movie. Unlike the Force Awakens, where I knew what was gonna happen. They're gonna blow up the base, Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the opening battle sequence. That was really well done. Yeah. So I thought it was Yoda's Force Ghost was hilarious.
Yes, and that was the one thing you were spoiled on.
I was spoiled on that at
was
school.
that Yoda appeared. So of all the things you could have been spoiled on, I guess that's one of the lighter ones.
Yeah.
Because you still didn't know in what context or...
Right. Because it was cool because what I noticed was in Rey's quarters in the Millennium Falcon, she actually has all the Jedi books and stuff. And I noticed, I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, so she did take those.
Because Luke's like, I'm gonna burn this down,
Brings out a Molotov cocktail.
He's gonna start a revolution. And then Yoda appeared, and a lot of people were complaining that like Yoda is all CG, which I thought at first, but then I did some research. Apparently, that is the very same puppet that they used back in Empire.
That's the Return of the Jedi puppet.
Yeah, it was really funny, because when Luke was about to burn it down, Yoda was laughing and had like lightning strike it. Don't fall asleep. Thankfully there aren't any seagulls on this island where Luke is.
There probably are.
I didn't find the animal comic relief annoying. The
Porgs.
The Porgs. Yes, the next great Voyager villain that they're gonna take from Next Gen. But yeah, and one of my biggest cons, not biggest, but one of my cons for this is a lot of the jokes don't really land. But the one that really landed for me was when Chewbacca was about to eat a porg, and then the rest are just looking at him. It's like, you monster! It's so funny. Or Chewbacca's like pushing him aside because they're in the Millennium Falcon. It's really funny. And when he's screaming, Chewbacca is screaming, and the little porg screaming too. It was funny. And they don't, it's not out of place, and it's
harmless.
Not annoying.
They don't help them take down the Empire with rocks.
Oh man, that's a rant for another day. But they don't get in the way like the mice from Cinderella, who take up way too much screen time.
I think
Jack and Gus. I just read a Cinderella book. They're great.
And I heard that Warwick Davis plays the porgs. So
Warwick Davis. Porgs in the Hood too. I'm excited for that one. So I thought that was really cool. I like the parts where Luke is training her, and the awesome scene where the Empire, where Kylo Ren says, just destroy ya, but he's just yelling at all his guys to destroy Luke, and all the fires is on him, and you're just like, yes, and then he just emerges out, and you're just like, yes, fate. But yeah, Jordan, why is this the worst movie ever made?
We're not there yet. This is why is this the best movie ever made first.
Nope.
Can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you. Hello?
Holding for Jeremy?
Hello? Yes, this is Jeremy. Can you hear me?
Sorry, just tooling with you. I think there's a line in this movie where, Luke Skywalker says, this is not going to go the way you think. And I think that's like a perfect tagline for this movie. And I think Brian Johnson's headspace for when he's creating this film.
Ryan Johnson.
What's that?
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson. It's like R-I-A-N or something.
Yeah.
So Ryan Johnson, just the way he was thinking when he was writing this, and he's been writing this movie for 4 years, and he even started writing this movie before Force Awakens was even finished. Wow. So it's kind of crazy the way that they're doing this trilogy. I'll get into that a little bit more later, but just the opening scene of this movie, like Connor mentioned, I like that it is very much classic Star Wars. So we do get some of that in this movie, and you get kind of those bombers that come in that look very much like B-17 bombers, and you could follow the action. It wasn't just shiny, flashy laser battle like you'd see in episode 3. This had a point, had a purpose. You could see what they were going for, and you see Poe taking chances probably when he shouldn't, and then you get to see this new Dreadnought ship, which was pretty awesome. And they succeed, but at a great cost. And I did like that in that opening scene. They have kind of this mini arc for this character who we later find out is Rose's sister. But I just like that opening scene, and you see kind of this failure, and all the bombers go down, but this one, she ends up grabbing at the last second, and it looked like it flew past her by like 15 feet. So I'm not quite sure how she grabbed it. But
yeah, editing on that part was a bit odd.
Yeah, a little weird. But no, I just really like that. I don't know how bombs drop in space exactly either. I'm guessing they're magnetic or have something going on. but just unloading that payload. And honestly, I really liked one of my favorite characters was, I think it was Admiral or something, Captain Kennedy. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was better than Hux, honestly. So he was the older, like British commander guy on the Dreadnought.
He's a Dreadnought
Yeah, he
commander.
was way cooler than the sniveling ginger.
He gave a good like stiff upper lip, like rebel scum in those final seconds.
Yeah, he was friggin' awesome. The other thing, and this is kind of a pro to an extent, it definitely starts off as a pro and it goes maybe a little too far, but Bryan Johnson has a penchant for doing the opposite of what you expect. And I appreciated that for the most part in this movie. He kind of like the reverse Occam's razor of like whatever you think is the most logical thing is probably not going to happen. He breaks a lot of Star Wars rules and tropes, which I liked.
What? Occam's feather? I know what Occam's razor is. I'm not familiar with the feather
It's
concept.
the opposite.
Feather.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's why he has a razor, because he got so many feathers.
Right. That makes sense.
Bryan Johnson also takes several shots at the prequels, and
He does.
like Maz talking about labor disputes and the Jedi religion stuff, not following up with Rey's parentage at all, just being like, nope, my parents were, drunkards, which I actually really like.
I did too.
I like that not everyone in this story has to be connected to someone from the past. It doesn't have to be friggin' Kenobi's daughter. We don't have to have a huge backstory on Snoke yet. Like, there's a lot of things that people are clamoring about and are mad about, but it's not Bryan Johnson's fault that JJ built up this Rey question, and JJ's great at building up questions and not answering them, especially if you've ever watched Lost. But
Yes.
I'm really happy. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm really happy because there was this huge, like, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy, but more of a theory that the recent game that came out, Battlefront 2, which was a disaster, that the campaign mode, the main character's name, Iden Versio, campaign to that game sucked. It was super predictable. Anyway, and she had the same kind of like skin color as Rey and had the same like British accent, and everyone's like, is Iden Versio from Battlefront 2 Rey's, mom? So thankfully that is not what happened, because that'd be really awkward for anyone who didn't play or is.
You want to find out who her mom is? Buy this video game.
Yeah, it's like, you want to know
EA doesn't own this movie franchise.
Yeah. Buy this video game and then pay $3 for the Rey explanation pack.
But you don't know if you're actually going to get the true ending of Rey's parents, because you need to get the right loot box for that one.
You might just get a Ford cutscene. And honestly, I do have some issues with the movie, which we'll get into later.
Yes.
But there is a near perfect cut of this movie that could be made. If you just take a couple things out, I think this movie is almost perfect.
Yeah.
You don't even need to add much. I think there's just a few things that could be removed that would make it much better for me. There's also, Star Wars is very heavy metaphorically, and I think the metaphor of let old things die is also like a message from Bryan Johnson to the fans and to the original trilogy. Like, these characters are not going to be around forever. They killed off Han Solo in the last movie, and we lose Luke Skywalker to an extent in this movie.
And his lightsaber
has passed away.
Far more important.
That iconic, the lightsaber, that's Anakin's lightsaber, was pulled apart.
It's true.
Yeah, it's broken in two. So there's just so many things in this movie that are trying to progress the story and move it forward, which is something that Star Wars needs. It's kind of hard to swallow, but you can't continually tell the same story and the same story about the same family over and over again. It has to progress at some point. So I did like that. It is tough at times. Some of the good old stuff that they brought back, I thought the Yoda cameo was great. The puppet looked great, like Connor mentioned. I love the practical effects. And he's a much more eccentric Yoda like we saw in Empire. He burns down that tree, and then he goes and does a little like happy dance.
Yes.
Like, it was crazy. He's poking Luke in the face with a cane. Like, it was great. So classic Yoda, much better than prequel Yoda for sure. And I thought that was just a really good use of him, and I didn't see it coming. I did not really have much spoiled about this movie, so when I saw the back of his head and saw his little ear sticking up, I was like, oh, wow, Yoda's in this? And I didn't know how I was going to feel about that or which way it was going to go, but it was great, and it makes perfect sense because he's Luke's mentor. And now here Luke is mentoring Rey to an extent, and Yoda knows that the books aren't in there, so he has no problem burning it down. But he needed to do that for Luke's sake, to get Luke to get off his butt, literally, and levitate and astral project.
Yoda even had the line that I didn't catch the first time, but I caught in the second, was telling Luke, like, Rey possesses everything that she needs right now, knowing that she had the books anyway at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
So she did possess everything she needed.
And there's so many lines in this movie, like you just mentioned, with that of Rey having everything she needs, and just the Luke stuff, like how did he get in here, and when he's fighting Kylo Ren, and he moves his feet, and there's no salt showing. Like, there's so many things that you watch a second time, you're like, I'm so stupid. How could I not pick up on that? So he does a really good job of doing that. And honestly, this movie has some of the best moments, I think, in the entire Star Wars franchise, at least recent franchise for sure. I loved the Snoke slice. I think it was a little telegraphed, but I guess it kind of needed to be, like that scene where he just cuts him in half. I thought it was awesome.
You know what? Telegraphing it actually made me more surprised when it happened. So I was like,
yeah,
there's no way that this, and then it's like, not in the second film, it's not going to happen. And they're showing it move. This is just going to, so when that happened, I think it actually made me more surprised that it went through.
I guess that's what you get for closing your eyes when someone's right in front of you and saying exactly what's happening. Like, just open your eyes and do it.
It's a lesson to be learned for sure.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true. Connor mentioned the Praetorian Guard fight scene. That was just incredible. That was one of the moments that got the biggest buzz out of the crowd that I saw, the loudest ovation and stuff. Just that fight scene, even the second time I saw it, was just awesome. And Star Wars isn't all about lightsaber battles, but that's a huge bonus. And anytime you can have an awesome fight like that. And we never really have seen an instance where someone from the light side of the Force and dark side of the Force team up like that in tandem. And the Praetorian Guards were really cool. The variety of weapons that they had, that whole scene, the cinematography, the action, the way it was shot. When Rey tosses him that lightsaber, he turns it on and burns a hole in the dude's eye socket. That was just some awesome stuff. Holdo's jump to light speed, I thought was really awesome. That was another scene that when it goes silent for a second and it just kind of lingers there and you're like, wait, what just happened? And then you see the aftermath of it. And takes out the entire fleet and splits that ship in half. I thought that was incredible. Aside from that, I thought Luke projecting himself was a really cool scene. The way he reunites with Leia, that reunion that they get, and taking all that blaster fire, tricking Kylo Ren, and just basically making him mad so that the rebellion can escape. This movie, in a lot of ways, comes full circle because it's very similar to what Obi-Wan Kenobi does in A New Hope. He stands there, he buys time, and then he becomes one with the Force right before Vader strikes him down. So we see kind of that same sacrifice here from Luke. I also liked one of the scenes. There's probably two scenes in this movie that kind of choked me up a little bit. And I think the Yoda scene was really powerful, the reunion with Leia, and then when R2-D2 plays that message.
Oh, yeah.
The original Leia message, and Luke's like, that's a low blow. I really like that, just nostalgia-wise, obviously, and just one of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars, and R2-D2 just being happy to see Luke, and he knows what buttons to push with Luke. Yeah. And I think that really started to push Luke in the right direction. So I thought that was great. Kylo Ren in this movie was much more compelling of a character to me than he was in The Force Awakens. And we only get one, tantrum scene with him where he smashes his helmet because Snoke tells him it's out of style. But aside from that, he was very good.
Have you not seen Sith Weekly?
No.
It's the latest Sith designs.
And then, like I mentioned, things coming full circle. Luke's last scene with the twin sons, where he's sitting, on Octo, where you just see the two sons there, and it's basically like transporting you back to the first time you really see him on Tatooine with the twin sons. So I thought that was a really well shot moment. I was pretty mad. I think the first time I saw the movie that he just disappears and dies. I was like, wait, he wasn't there. Why is he dead? So I understand it more now. I'm more okay with it, and I don't think this is the last we're going to see of Mark Hamill by any stretch of the imagination. So, and how long can you keep? I don't know how old Mark Hamill is. He's got to be 70s, right?
I think he's 65, maybe.
65. So yeah. So how long can you have him touring a lightsaber around? So you got to do something with him. And if he didn't die in this movie, he would more than likely die in the next. I thought this was a great way to move the plot forward. That was most of the pros that I have. A couple just talking points I have. A couple things I want to get your guys' opinion on. The Luke Skywalker character, and I think choices that they made in this movie and his ultimate fate. I think those are some of the things that fans are most divisive over right now, are getting a lot of attention, because he obviously is the main character in this story, or has been since episode 4. So this has really been the hero's journey all the way to his death at this point. And I know a lot of people didn't agree, even Mark Hamill himself, with the direction Bryan Johnson took the character, especially at first. So I'm just curious what you guys think about what they did with Luke in this movie.
Seeing it a second time definitely helped a lot with that. But I'm okay with it. I love that we get to see it kind of from like 3 different perspectives of what happened with Kylo.
Yeah.
And at first it was like, oh my God, so Luke just went in there to murder a child. That doesn't seem like the Luke I know.
Master Skywalker.
But that's not really what happened. He saw the future. He saw all of his friends murdered. And for a split second, he turned on his green lightsaber. And then it immediately is like, what am I doing? But then seeing it from, you can definitely understand where Kylo's coming from. Looking at his master above him with a lightsaber. So I love that he did kind of create Kylo, although Kylo was kind of already lost to Snoke at that point anyway, but that just cemented the deal. But I don't think that hurts the character of Luke at all. I think the whole point of this movie was failure, and Luke was human. They built up, it's kind of like the Lee Nollis in the Circle trilogy. It's who's the real man and what's the legend, and Luke's just a guy. When you look at his powers and everything, he's not the most powerful Jedi in the world. What did he really do except for turn Vader? I mean, he's all right with the sword, but he's not this guy that lifts Star Destroyers out of the sky. But people think
I think for what we get from him, he doesn't really have the Force powers till Empire, and he's so new at it. We don't really get to see any of his powers come to fruition till Jedi.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the issues people have with this movie, and myself included, is just the headcanon of where we thought Luke Skywalker went. I mean, we've had so many years to think about this, 30 plus years on since the original trilogy of where did Luke Skywalker go after this? What has he done? How has he progressed? It's been, I don't know if they narrowed it down in the movie exactly, but I'm guessing 20, 25 plus years, maybe 30 years that Luke Skywalker's been progressing as a Jedi since Return of the Jedi. So you assume he's more powerful in the Force. And also people that read the extended universe novels have read different adaptations, like Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, where Luke has become much more powerful. But yeah, you're right. Based on what we've seen canonically from the movies, he is not the most powerful. Snoke seems way more powerful than Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and luckily we get a great explanation about that in this movie.
And it seems like he thinks Kylo and Rey have more power than he ever would have as well.
Right. I don't know. What do you think about the character of Luke in this movie, Connor?
I'm a little conflicted about it.
And you've only seen it once, so I'm sure you still have a ton of questions.
I know.
And you haven't had a lot of time to process. That was just a few hours ago you saw it one time. So,
right.
How many times have you seen it, Jordan?
Twice.
Twice. Okay,
I may see it a third time. So same thing here. The first time I saw it, I was like, I didn't really agree with that. I didn't like it as much. The second time, knowing where the movie was going to go, and I think that's just something with the Star Wars movie. When you go to watch it, there's so much anticipation and so much hype, and The Force Awakens asks so many questions, and we don't get to see Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens, but for 30 seconds standing on a mountain doing nothing. So when the movie opens with him tossing his lightsaber over his shoulder into a porg nest, I was like, what? And that is still one of the scenes I didn't particularly care for, but
I still can't understand. I don't know if that's supposed to be played for laughs or not.
What was?
And Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. Because both times I've gone there, it's been very like awkward audience reception. Like I don't know what we're supposed to laugh at that or be like, oh, like it's conflicting.
I think that's just kind of another metaphor from Bryan Johnson of just throwing out the old and being like, this isn't the Luke Skywalker you're used to. But I don't think it landed the way he wanted it to.
In a porg's nest, yeah.
In a porg's nest, that's right.
Fell into that nest of Gundam.
So the 12th day of Christmas.
Seeing it the second time definitely helped me with what you were talking about too, Jordan, with because this is one of the things that angered me was like, okay, so Luke was never there fighting. Why did he die then? Did he slip on his back on that rock? It's like, I was like, that's not a great way to go. But then you seeing it the second time, you see when Kylo and Rey first have their minds joined and they start talking. Kylo says to Rey, like, you couldn't do this. This power would kill you. Yeah, just too much effort in projecting yourself. So the seeds are laid there that kind of power would drain you and kill you. So that helped way more the second time around. And then the dice, I'm like, whose dice is that? I guess Han's. So I had to go and look at that again too.
Turns out to be Jar Jar's.
Yeah, Jar Jar's
it's a
dice.
very weird. It's kind of like that crystal thing they're selling online from Picard's desk that shows up like randomly once or twice on this desk. And all of a sudden it's like this big thing online. They're like, oh, what? And these dice are in like one scene of A New Hope hanging from the rearview mirror on the Falcon.
But they'll play a gigantic role in the Solo movie.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
I'm not
literally a gigantic role.
He's winning the Millennium Falcon.
They really
with
rolled
those
the dice with that.
Oh, they did. Nice. Hello, what have we here?
But I think for the most part, the Luke stuff works for me, especially the second time through. It's not what I wanted to see, but it's not, like you said, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that this is where Luke Skywalker's character is going to go. And given what happens and what he does to Kylo and eventually turns him into, Ben Kenobi into Kylo Ren, and now he's joined the dark side and he's killed, Han Solo, which Luke doesn't even know at this point. But all the terrible things, he's remade Vader essentially. Yeah. Which is what he just spent 3 movies trying to stop. So the other thing I was going to ask is, and this is something I thought about, I don't know if it was the first time I saw her or the second time, because Snoke obviously can join people's minds together, and he even says something to Kylo about, I snoked the conflict within you.
Yep, I snoked the conflict.
And I snoked
Trying to squeeze his name in a
conversation.
I forgot no snoking. Oh. Now, do you think that Snoke messed with Luke's head at all for that instance to make him think that, like to consider killing Kylo?
It's possible.
Or is that completely contrived?
We'll have to wait till the prequels to this trilogy come out to find out the Snoke backstory.
Right.
But
oh man, and do you think Snoke is dead? I mean, he looks like he's been killed at time ritual already. He's got like a lightsaber through the throat wound and a huge split in his dome.
If only because
I'm not sure.
If he's alive, then what was even the point of any of this? I think the whole point of him dying was circumventing
Kylo taking over
the Star Wars trope, and then Kylo taking over now and becoming the supreme leader. I think it just services Kylo's storyline and having him return,
because that had to happen in the next movie if it didn't happen here.
Which
and
everybody would be like,
appreciate them doing it here than waiting till the next one, because then you just have another Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about one scene I really liked was when Rey was talking to Luke, and he was talking about how the Jedi Order were so stupid and arrogant and blind that Darth Sidious was taking over.
That was a great mention of the prequels. That's how you do it.
And I'm surprised at the prequel mentions in this movie. It's kind of like the Enterprise mentions and beyond. I did not see them coming at all.
Exactly. But yeah, again, Luke Skywalker saying Darth Sidious in a movie is amazing.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Another cool scene was when he was like, what do you know about the Force? And Rey says it's an ability used to like
by Jedi to lift
rocks
and control people. Yeah. He's like, that's amazing. Everything you said is wrong.
Right. And then he gets that comes full circle with Kylo at the end, where Kylo's like, the Jedi are dead, the Resistance is over. He's like, no, everything you said is wrong. It's good stuff.
And then also, like, do you guys think Phasma's still alive? I don't know that I think she is, but I think it's stupid if she's dead, because what was the point of that
It's
character
stupid
other
regardless.
than to sell action figures?
Yeah, that's awful. So
We see her armor is pretty much impenetrable.
unless you hit her in the face with a
Yes,
lightning
with
stick.
whatever that is, a
This-
taser baton.
Is my boomstick.
So yeah, so that's the problem with Phasma too. If she dies, then what's the point? If she comes back again to fight Finn for 3 minutes,
Then
what's
it's
the point?
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's just the Kenny of Star Wars.
oh my
Well,
god.
she's
They
almost
killed
like a worse version of Boba Fett for sure.
Yeah,
Oh.
She looks cool. They use her a little bit in the first one. You want more, and then you get it, and you're like,
But at
"What?"
least
and
Boba
then they
Fett
kill her off in a weird way.
did something. Boba Fett tracked the Millennium Falcon. He captured Han Solo. If they had, we obviously there's a big chunk of this movie that none of us have mentioned in the pros yet. So but if that chunk, what if they had Phasma tracking Finn, like give her something to
But
do in this movie
Dad-
besides 3 minutes of the same stuff, like I'm fighting and I'm dead again.
But Dad, romantic subplots and
They can do that, but why can't she be doing something?
There's just a lot going on in this movie, which is a little bit conny, but I just have one more pro and then a few neutral zones. But just the themes that we talked about, I like the fact that Brian Johnson is breaking the tropes of lineage basically doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to be Luke Skywalker's son or cousin or a Kenobi or anything like that. Anyone can be the next Luke Skywalker, which is basically the message of this movie.
Someone get that Stable Boys metachlorian count. That's all.
Right? Yeah. We'll get to that. This needed to happen eventually. Like I said, they can't keep telling the same story.
Right.
And that's kind of what Force Awakens was to an extent, is the same ingredients just mixed in a little different way. This adds so much more, and I can understand why it might be painful. It's divisive. Some people don't like it. I totally get that, but I appreciate it for sure. And like you mentioned, failure is the greatest teacher, and Yoda says that to Luke, and that's very much the lesson Luke learns at the end of this movie, and that's what causes him, from his failure, to come back and basically save the rebellion, which I believe is at 47 people right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like
So,
that.
Nice 47 reference.
I really like that
thank
scene where I think it was Yoda who said that failure is the greatest teacher. So Dad, you're a pretty good teacher.
I'm the best.
Oh, God. Oh, my gosh. You're like a professor. So
Call me Dr. Disrespect.
neutral zone wise, I'll try to get through these a little quicker because I've been talking for a long time. But the clothes iron scene was a little space ballsy for me. I laughed because it looks like a ship landing, and then it shows the clothes. I was like,
Yeah, where
that's
did that come
hilarious.
from?
But
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
hilarious.
know that it fit in this movie perfectly.
Yeah.
Luke also was a little heavy on the jokes. This movie in general, it starts off with the Poe thing, which Poe in Force Awakens tells jokes right to Kylo's face. I think like 2 in a row. And this one, that "Are you there?" joke. I'm waiting. I'm on hold. Like,
Can you hear me now?
I didn't
Your
mind
mama.
that much, but I didn't like how much they belittle Hux in this movie. After his awesome speech in The Force Awakens, they make him seem just like a complete.
Yeah, he does get treated bad.
Yeah.
And he's
You guys-
such a badass because this takes place literally right after Force Awakens. He's already grown his
Yes.
sideburns 4 inches in 3 minutes. This
It's
guy is a
incredible. I
beast.
need to know what product he's using.
See, you guys didn't like that scene where Poe prank calls the First Order.
No.
Yep.
Is there a Dr. Huxtable here?
and- Mr. Huxtable.
Is your mom there?
Go.
Luke tells a joke as well where he's raised looking at the books, and he says, "Why are you here?" And she's like, I'm nobody. I'm from nowhere. He's like, no one's from nowhere. And she's, I'm from Jakku. Like, well, that's pretty much nowhere. And then he goes right back into, why are you here? Which I think it just takes away from from that scene, where he's trying to go and the heaviness of it. And I wanted to get an answer from Rey to that question, and she doesn't answer it. So there's just a few moments that they overuse the jokes a little bit. And I don't mind jokes in Star Wars. There's always jokes in Star Wars. There always will be. And there were some really funny ones. But when it's taking away from that scene and from the question what I really want, that's when I have a problem with it. So those were the main things. Just him throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder to start. The Poe thing I thought went a little long, and then the Jakku joke, it didn't land for me.
That joke where
and
Snoke walks in poodoo. Oh, come on.
And Bantha Poodoo.
Pia, you, sir.
Also, Zone-wise, the epilogue scene with Broom Boy, like you just mentioned, that would have been a much better after the credit scene to me, or even an episode 9 scene at the end of that movie, because it just feels weird and out of place.
It's very
in
conclusive.
This movie,
yeah. I actually like that scene, but it very much seems like this is it. Like, that's like, there's hope for the future, but we ain't waiting 20 years for this kid to grow up and join the Resistance. I know it's just metaphorically, like, they are here, but it's not like they responded.
And his broom's a lightsaber, and it was kind of prequel-y to me.
I have that kid's
Anakin-esque
action figure. It was available
and
at midnight.
If you noticed, he didn't have a mom, so I wonder if he was conceived by the Force.
Oh my gosh.
And some people are saying that the Rey's vision, where it shows like a shadowy figure of two people becoming one, and then it shows her, is showing you metaphorically that she's conceived from the Force.
That's
which,
hot.
know that I buy into that, and I don't ever want to see that again. But whatever. There's a little bit of fourth wall breaking in this movie as well, and like the Kylo statement to Rey, "You're nobody in this story." And the prequel jokes that they tell, even though I laughed at them, I don't like the fact that throughout this movie, it seems that Rian Johnson is belittling the prequels that have come before, which I don't like the prequels, but you don't need to poke fun of them within a Star Wars movie. You do that enough outside of a Star Wars movie.
Some specific.
And also, what's that?
Do you have some specifics to the? Because I'm trying to think about the things they said about the prequels.
There's like the labor dispute thing, and then there was something about the Jedi from the original prequels.
Talking about how stupid and arrogant they were because they let Darth Sidious wipe them out.
Yeah, and that I don't mind too much, but it's just kind of like the poking fun of the labor dispute thing. And
I think Luke.
What's the other thing?
I think when Luke said that, though, I think he had a fair point.
It was a great point.
Yeah, how blind they were and arrogant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that I think JJ and Rian Johnson taking turns at this trilogy. If you look at the original trilogy, it had mostly been mapped out already. And that's what this kind of suffers from, is not only is Rian Johnson taking over from JJ's, but they didn't share notes. They didn't really look at each other. They weren't helping each other write the movies. He was seeing the dailies as they came in, but they're writing them at almost the same point, or at the same point in time, and he was just adjusting. And this isn't planned out. When you're writing as a writer and you don't have an end point, it's really hard, and you're going to have some contrived things that happen along the way. Yeah. So hopefully JJ can come in and close this out strong and answer some questions that he started, in The Force Awakens. But I also think Rian Johnson belittles The Force Awakens to an extent by downplaying a lot of the questions asked, not blatantly not answering some of the questions and going his own route.
Yeah, he certainly does. He big time with Hux too, because
Oh, absolutely.
The Huckster had an amazing scene in Force Awakens with his Adolf Hitler speech, where he just goes crazy, evil, and then this he's just
he's like
relief.
A rival. He's fighting, essentially with Kylo for control as Snoke's number 2.
He's just a sniveling Malcolm Reed in this movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
I am a general, sir.
Yeah.
And mainly the last thing I want to mention, and I've talked about a little bit, is we don't get hardly any answers from Episode 7 other than who Rey's parents are. And like I said, it's not Rian Johnson's fault that we don't like the answer we get, or that most people, or a lot of people don't. I like it. But at one point, Rey asks Kylo, "Why did you kill Han Solo?" And we don't get an answer from Kylo there at all. We don't really get answers about Snoke, which, like I said, I'm okay with at this point. And we don't need them. This isn't a story about Snoke. We didn't have answers about the Emperor, and when we got them, I wish I didn't have them. So,
the only thing we know about
Snoke is apparently Snoke's half the man we thought he was.
Yes, he is.
Dude, wouldn't it be crazy when Kylo cuts him in half? Like Jar Jar just appears from the shadows. He's
from inside,
not the Lord of the
conspiracy.
He just
just a little Jar Jar inside of him.
Yeah, if we didn't get the prequels, we would know that the Emperor's real name is Sheev Palpatine. At your service.
And then, Luke asking, "Why are you here?" We don't get an answer from that, so we don't we don't really get a strong sense of answers from where these characters are coming from and why they are where they are. Rey's vision when she touches the lightsaber, and we hear friggin' Alec Guinness's voice. There's nothing, no mention of that. The other thing I really wanted to see in this movie were the Knights of Ren, or a mention of them. Did Kylo kill them?
No, that'll
did
be
Snoke
his
make him kill them? Are
guard.
they being used somewhere else? Like, it's just kind of weird that they show us a scene of them. They look freaking awesome, and no mention of them. So, aside from that, like I said, this is not a major issue depending on episode 9. But this is a middle chapter, so there are going to be those questions, and it's going to depend on how it's closed out if those become, issues. So right now it's all neutral zone stuff for me, kind of in the middle. But I would have liked to gotten at least a few answers. Yeah.
Will the Knights of Ren be Kylo's Praetorian Guard in episode 9? That would be cool.
I hope so.
Me too. I
but
hope they're not forgotten.
That's all the pros and neutral zone stuff I got, Jeremy. What did you have to add to that?
Not much. I think you guys got a ton of them. The Snoke chamber, the whole battle with the Praetorian Guard is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. I thought that was great. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, there were moments of their characters, and we haven't got to yet that I'm sure we will, that I didn't care for, but their actual performances, I think, were the finest performances either one of them has had. I mean, Carrie Fisher, she's not an actress. She hasn't acted in years. She's a writer. She's an amazing writer. I think in Force Awakens, she was pretty static, not great. But
she's better in this film.
I think she's way better in this. I thought Mark Hamill was great, and I also think this solidifies Kylo Ren as the greatest character in this trilogy by far. And just seeing what Luke did through his eyes makes a lot of sense as to why. I mean, he was evil, but that didn't help. Also, the great hero shot of the Millennium Falcon arriving on Crate. Man, they really hate that ship.
That
gets me every time. I love that. This is also, I think, the best looking Star Wars movie ever created. This is a beautiful movie. It looks great. We get puppet Yoda, not CGI Yoda, not melted puppet from the original cut of Phantom Menace.
Dude,
it just looks like
so weird.
Female gremlin from Gremlins 2.
He's left out in the sun too long.
Yeah, left out in the sun too long. I was, kill me.
God left me unfinished, yes.
Yeah, Luke. There's a lot of full circle. Now the circle is complete with Luke at the beginning, where he's like, "What do you want me to do? Stare down the entire First Order with a laser sword?" And he does at the end, even though he's projecting himself. That's exactly what he does to get everybody away. And then fading away and looking at the twin sons one last time, that got me really good. The Carrie Fisher, there's 2 or 3 Carrie Fisher moments that I legitimately teared up. Playing the Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi did it. I'm so glad that we did get to see Luke and Leia together, because obviously this is the last chance we're ever going to get for any of those hero characters to meet. So I'm glad that he got to hold her hand, kiss her on the forehead. That gets me. That gets me just thinking about. We get the first real, actual, like, Yoda helpful scene since 1983. That's huge. And CGI Yoda was CGI Christopher, not Walken.
I'm Yoda.
Where was that scene?
It was a holiday special.
Yeah, I love
with Dooku, that flipping around Dooku. That's not Yoda.
I love the scene where Yoda was talking to Chewbacca, and he said, "Goodbye, Chewbacca,
my old friend. We'll see each other." Like, what? No. And we didn't get all the answers, but I feel like a lot of people that hate this movie are angry fanboys, just not getting what their minds decided this movie should have been. I mean, what did they want?
Farts.
They wanted Snoke being like, "Of course, it is I who has escaped from death. I'm Darth Plagueis. Ooh, does that shock you, Rey Kenobi?" Like, what do they want? That's because then they would just be like, "Oh, well, this is just a rehash. This is exactly. There are no twists and turns. This is exactly what they wanted." They hate Force Awakens for being A New Hope. They hate Last Jedi for being completely different.
It's pretty simple. They just want to know. They just want to know who saved us. Who saved us?
Yeah. Neutral zone wise, the humor. is very hit and miss, maybe leaning towards miss a little bit more. But I really like Luke slapping Rey on the hand with the sticks. I know that's the Force.
That was great.
That's great. That kills. Oh, you're very powerful. Whoa, slap.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the Force. Oh, you're really powerful. Yeah. That's great. But a lot of it did feel a little forced. Also, and this is the first thing of this entire plot line none of us have even mentioned yet that I'm going to at least drop in for a neutral zone, and that's Benicio del Toro.
No.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. I think he did fine, and I think it's just an acting choice. I wonder if he walked in and just like, yay, we got Benicio del Toro, and he walks in, he's like, hey guys, mine has a stutter. All right, let's start acting like, okay. All right, Benicio. I guess that's.
Do you know that I was reading through some trivia and like fun facts for this, and it took me about 40 minutes. I got maybe halfway through them. There's so much stuff out there. So I don't know if all of it's true, whatever, take it with a grain of salt. But I was told that Joaquin Phoenix was their first choice for this role, and he turned it down.
That's probably for the best.
Well, yeah, I forgot he was a thing that existed.
He's a good actor.
Yeah,
I can't stand Joaquin Phoenix, though.
As a person?
There is just the way he talks and treats people. Like there's I don't know why I was watching this, but I saw him on David Letterman one time, and it is the most awkward
when he was doing that character
seen.
In the beard, and he was just like the biggest jerk.
And he was trying to be a musician. He was coming out with an album, and that's why he was on the show.
People couldn't decide if that was just in character. Either way, jerk move.
Yeah, he was a complete jerk. But yeah, I forgot he existed too for a while until I saw that. So Benicio del Toro is fine. I'll definitely get into that later as well. So
I'm sure
he had some good stuff.
There was some good stuff.
Acting choices didn't agree with.
And again, it's like, oh, he's going to be the Lando. He's going to turn him in. You know, this deal's getting worse all the time. But he's going to save them.
You know, the Han Solo.
Yes, but then he ends up
because he was in it for the money originally, and then he comes back.
But then the Han Solo Orlando. That's just like, well, I got my money. Good day. He doesn't come back. I thought he might have been in that ATST at the end. Like, yeah, you're all clear, kid. Now let's get at. No, that was BB-8. He's gone. So again, it does not go the way you think it's going to go.
And speaking of tropes, we do get some tropey stuff here. We do get a droid in an ATST. We do. Saving the day to an extent.
We do.
So.
All right. There's that. Yeah, we have a whole third of the movie we haven't discussed. So let's go ahead and get into our cons.
Permission to rip this movie a new one?
All right. Don't make me demote you.
You must.
A lot of people like the scene. I want to know what you guys think about this scene. Mm-hmm. The scene where Carrie Fisher becomes Superman and just like...
You say a lot of people like the scene?
No. Some people like really like it and other people hate it. I'm included in that. It's like, I get maybe Luke Skywalker or maybe even Rey to an extent doing something like this. Rey is iffy.
Or Star-Lord.
Yes.
Leia has no trading in terms of the Force. So I get like
that
maybe
we've seen.
I get like the communication or like the feeling thing because she's Force sensitive, but she doesn't have like any Jedi training or anything, and she's just like, yeah, going back into the ship, and they kill off Admiral Akbar. 0 out of 10. This movie sucks.
That's the real
You can have Leia, all right, but you cannot take Admiral Akbar away from me, you monsters. I hate you.
Add that to the neutral zone because it sucks that Akbar dies. He's another legacy character that they killed off. But Admiral Akbar is not a great character. He's kept alive by memes. If it wasn't for the "it's a trap" line, no one would care or know who the guy is. He's done one line. He was okay in Rogue One as well, right?
Do any of you know what R.I.P. Akbar? Do any of you know what his final line was in this movie?
What?
We're gonna what?
That's true. We're gonna what?
The actor was reading the script.
Yeah. And then he died 30 seconds later.
Okay.
R.I.P.
Awesome. But there's no I don't want to give away Discovery spoilers, but it's a meaningless death. Like, at least give him a moment to put him on one of the ships that saves something or gets in the way and takes a bullet to save
Where's his
Poe's
duel
shuttle or
lightsaber
something.
duel with Snoke?
He could probably survive in space. Maybe he floats out in his little chair out there and grabs Leia.
He just has
freezes
like
to
his
death.
flippers and he's
How
just like
amazing.
swimming through space.
I got you, princess. Like, Uncle Akbar,
He's
you
like-
monster.
He's like swimming around like a
Yes.
tadpole in space. He's
Yep.
like, I got you. Dude, that would be awesome.
I think I am personally glad that Leia didn't die in this movie just
Yeah.
because of
Oh,
losing Carrie Fisher. I
Yeah.
think there was a way this scene could have been handled. Maybe even like if it was subconsciously, maybe her eyes don't even open. If subconsciously her mind reaches out and pulls her to safety without her even being conscious to know what happened, because she's a Skywalker. She has that in her blood. But yeah, to open her eyes and them to not immediately crystallize and implode, which I'm glad didn't
Be
happen.
like 2 miles
Really
outside of the
impressive.
ship, which doesn't
Right.
make a whole lot of sense.
But if she
because that
subconsciously-
explosion is not going to throw you that far
Right.
in space.
Pulled herself in. I think I would have been better with that.
Right.
It was just to Mary popping her way over there without ever seeing this happen with Leia before. Yeah, just Mary
I
Poppins,
heard
y'all.
someone describe it
Mary Poppins.
as
Yeah.
like a pop-up book where you slide the character across. Like, that's the exact. Now I can't unsee that.
Like the
That's what
Enterprise
I'm
and the animated serease, well, going across the screen, just pulling it
I
across.
think the main, her eyes follow you no matter where you look at them. The thing I like about this scene, though, is that I honestly thought she might die here because I didn't watch the trailers closely. I didn't see the scenes where she was on crate later in the movie and,
Right.
in the trailers and whatnot.
And you don't know. They could have adjusted things afterwards.
Exactly,
So, yeah, it was
because
definitely
since
like
she had passed away, I thought
whoa.
maybe they're gonna kill her off here.
Right.
So it the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and everyone was clapping. But then you think about it, it's like, wait, what? Wait, what?
yeah.
Oh.
To quote Admiral Akbar, she's got a what?
So, and I think a common defense of this movie's problems is, well, did you read the comics? Well, did you read the books? Did you watch?
Yeah.
Did you watch this or this? It's like, no. That's why I have a big problem with Halo 5. Halo 5 story, because it not only is it awful, but it expects you to, listen to the Hunt the Truth podcast. It expects you to read all the books and all the comics.
And worst of all, it expects you to play that trash.
Yeah. Got him. But yeah, so I think that's a dumb excuse.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Clone Wars series. It redeems a lot of the prequels in my eyes.
Well,
But that it doesn't make it good.
so what are you referring to in this? Like, what are we missing by not reading a book?
The plot
That
holes.
Leia can fly to different planets?
No, the plot holes. People say, like, where are the Knights of Ren? Where are all these subplots that are made in Force Awakens? Well, it's resolved
Yeah.
in a book. It's
And-
like, I had finals last week. I don't have...
And
I don't have
Phasma
the
just
time.
had a big book come out too. That is like, I guess it's amazing. I would have liked to see her be amazing.
Oh, I'll get to that. Oh, that's my next one.
Maybe she'll get her own movie.
Phasma is the Boba Fett of this new trilogy. Wow, because you see these Finn and Phasma go into, and you're like, yeah, let's do this.
Bring it, Chrome Dome.
Yeah, that was a little fun line. Like, why
yeah.
doesn't Phasma just shoot him? And 1 minute
Because blasters are too easy for these rebels.
she's like, I thought you were gonna say so uncivilized.
So uncivilized. Hello there.
But then she had 1 moment she has her cool like chrome, blaster. Then she has like a weird pew pew gun,
Dude,
like a little
those guns
pea
were
shooter.
they look like little Nerf or water guns, dude.
Yeah,
They
they
were
It's
were plastic.
Nerf
Yeah.
or nothing.
It was nothing. It might have been.
Yeah,
Nerf.
I like the little scene where where Rose like shoots a blaster at her and it just like bounces off, which is cool. And I like and you're just like, yeah, let's go. Let's see it, because Phasma and Ray, Finn.
Yes.
Sorry, and Finn are they're just getting into it, and you have Finn, and he's just like wailing on her, kind of like Luke in Jedi
Yeah.
when Vader's if you won't
Sister.
turn, maybe your sister will, and he's like no, and he attacks him. It's cool, and he's just wailing on her,
Yeah.
but she's not really fighting back, and then she's thrown into a fire pit, and it's so lame. Oh, there's another plot hole. So
The
how
one
did
she falls through.
no? So in Force Awakens, correct me if I'm wrong, They were on Star Killer Base, and they threw her into the trash compactor.
And then Star Killer
say
Base
they're
explodes.
going to, but
Not only that, how did she get out of the trash?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because this has to do with what you just already were upset about. They explain it in the Phasma book.
I'm sorry, that doesn't explain it here. I don't know that. Because I haven't read something, it's like, oh, you don't understand what the Suicide Squad characters? Did you read the comics? No. You know, just because there's something like reading on it, reading material should be used to expand the universe. It shouldn't be a requirement to understand what's going on.
In the novel, she buries herself into Han Solo's carcass, and it blows him off the planet. Kind of like Indiana Jones in the refrigerator, the nuclear blast.
She's
That's
just
actually,
like in
dude,
Han's body.
Did you hear the leaked title for Indiana Jones 5?
No.
You just said it.
Indiana Jones and the
Refrigerator.
refrigerator. They have run out of ideas.
He's just like morbidly obese.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Dude, you can use it as a
Da,
canoe.
da, da.
You can survive nukes in it. All kinds of stuff.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Lost Fitness. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of, like, weird plot holes. Okay, so, again, maybe I missed this.
Right, and we can help you out, because you just saw it once a
Right.
couple hours ago.
Why did Luke even make a map if he doesn't want to be found at all?
I don't know that he make a map. I know R2-D2 had like half of a map of the known
Right.
regions of space.
Well, and the guy at the beginning of Force Awakens gave... Yeah, so was it Lars Zantaga or whatever that guy was that gave Poe the thing to help find Luke Skywalker? Where did he have that? Why was there a missing piece of the map?
Right.
I would imagine that at some point Luke was at a Jedi temple somewhere on the far end of the galaxy, and I don't know, maybe it came from there. I'm sure there's an explanation. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
I got to read Phasma. I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can help with that one. What's your next question?
So, okay, yeah. So, again, like, Phasma's death was just so awful. I'm sure she's not dead this time, guys. I'm sure in the next Phasma book, you know, she hopped aboard a space tauntaun and has rode her way out, you know, but, yeah. So, where are the Knights of Ren? Did you not read the book? You know,
now they're actually renamed. They're the Knights of Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Easy
where
change.
are they? They built them up as, didn't they, like, kill the Jedi Order or something?
Yeah, they were all in that flashback, and they were there while
Nope.
the temple was burning.
Yeah,
Well, some of them.
Yeah, where are they? Okay, and maybe you guys, how did Rey take on Snoke's bodyguards? And you can say, it's the will of the Force. That's a stupid
I
answer.
can kind of handle this one. Because they mentioned that this Force that's awakening in her, it's because of the power in Solo, and Snoke says, like, where there's darkness,
The stronger he gets,
it's the stronger she gets, and she
rises.
And she has proven herself by being on Jakku that she can fight. She's a great fighter. She knows how to fight. This power is awoken in her, and she is strong and knows how to handle herself.
She has a lightsaber, and if you watch the scene, I think she kills one pretty early on, and then she's fighting one-on-one against one of them, and Kylo's taking on 3 of them.
And she's the only one that actually gets injured in that battle, too.
Yeah, so, yeah. Snoke's death kind of sucked to me. Because it was so dumb. He's like, I can sense my apprentice's every move. It's like, can you not sense that he's plotting to kill you?
Well, that's the thing.
Oh, I'm not done.
Okay.
And then the lightsaber is on this rusty old chair, and can you not hear it rattling? And it's moving towards you. It's like, can you not
He's
sense
concentrating
the Force?
on Kylo, not on the
That
lightsaber.
doesn't mean he can't hear. Open
But
your
he
eyes.
could also be using the Force to mute the sound or lift
Right.
the lightsaber up, an inch so it's not scratching his old rusty chair.
seen the dude's
which I don't think
ears?
that chair had any rust on
He's
it.
got tiny ears.
that makes no
Yeah.
sense. I don't know. I think it's
When's the
kind of
last
dumb.
time you think he cleaned those tiny ears?
He's got brain damage.
Oh, okay. So also, I was a little disappointed
Mhm.
because I hope Snoke's not dead because that was just kind of lame.
You want him and Phasma to come back in the next movie?
Yeah, I guess because they got such lame deaths. It's like I want to know who this Snoke guy is, And I guess you could say, well, we didn't know who the Emperor was. Yeah, but I had way more fun watching the Emperor ham it up than Snoke. I'm not saying Snoke was bad. In fact, I actually had the Andy Serkis, I think,
Yeah.
actually had a lot of fun with the role, and you can see that. But you just didn't get the sense of just pure darkness and evil like the Emperor, and the Emperor just hammed it up so much, so you just kind of bought it more. Here, it's just kind of like, oh, he's dead. All right, well, I guess we'll never get any answers. That's another thing. We don't get answers about anything, and I actually kind of like that Rey isn't related to anyone.
Right.
That we know of, because and a lot of people were disappointed. It's like, well, what's the point then? It's like, well,
that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point. Anyone can be a Jedi, which is a problem I had with the prequels, because sure, you can be a pure of heart person who wants to do good and can join the Jedi, but you can't, because sorry, evil Billy over here has a higher metachlorian count than you. That's
Tough
dumb.
luck, kid.
And I like that they kind of retcon that here, I like that. But and I like that it's not just about the Skywalker and, Kenobi bloodline. It's more
a bigger
than that.
universe.
Right. And I like that. That's kind of cool. The jokes. Some were really funny. Like the one where Luke was like, "Can you feel it? It's a force." He's like, "Wow, you must be really strong with the force." He's like tickling her hand. That's funny.
Yeah,
but
that killed both times.
But
also.
a lot of the other jokes are just not awful, but just really not funny.
What about the cool parallels that he used to drink blue milk when he had a blue lightsaber, but now he drinks green milk because he's got a green lightsaber?
Oh, speaking of which, that hot milking fetish.
I don't need that particular image running around my head.
That scene should have been censored. That was disgusting. He is milking this space walrus.
That was very
and is
prequel-y.
Drinking its milk. I hope that is milk. And I
he
hope
has
that
like
is
this joyous,
Yeah.
weird, devious,
Like, nod.
strange look on his face
And
when
then
he looks at Ray. He's like, all right.
He's like, yeah.
Good stuff.
Go green. And then the walrus just looks at Ray. He's like, hey, babe,
It's a living.
you want to turn? It's just like, ew, gross. I did not want to see that. That was awful. Rose? I thought she was fun at first, because she tases Finn. That's a fun sequence. And I like that she looks up to him a lot because he's a Resistance hero. But I thought Finn was great in this movie. And I was just like, when he was about to charge into that battering ram thing, I was just like on the edge of my seat. I was like, I accept this. This is a hero's way to go. And then she rams into him. It's like, it's what? And if her goal was to save him, she might have just killed him.
And her. And the Resistance, because then they blew the door open.
And then her reasoning is, we should be focusing on, saving each other, not destroying what we hate.
Yeah,
and then she
saving the
kisses
ones
him.
we love, not killing the ones we hate, which
Yeah.
I thought was a good line.
While
but
they're dying in the background.
Yeah, and why
leading
does
up to that was weird.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Why don't the AT-ATs just blow them to pieces? Like, there's an AT-AT
not
looking
concerned
directly
with that.
at them. They're rebel scum.
Yeah, they're two rebel scums that just killed each other.
Don't make weak excuses.
Well, Ren says in this movie, forget about them, push forward. The Resistance is in that bay door.
I suppose. And then she kisses him without his consent. And I was just kind of like, what? Are we supposed to be feeling for this budding romance? I'll give the romance this. It's the best romance since Padme and Anakin. So that speaks miles about them.
I had no idea that was the direction they were going with those two. I didn't feel that at all.
I didn't feel any chemistry.
I felt friendship. Like
Yeah.
I thought I liked them bonding, but I didn't feel romantic.
I wanted Rey and Finn to get together. I
So
thought
does
they would be.
Finn.
Yeah, I thought they were way better. I do like the look that Finn gives when she kisses him. People would be losing their minds if the roles were reversed. This heroic, heroine is about to sacrifice herself for the good of the galaxy. She's about to give it her all, and then the man's like, nope. And, runs into her, and he's like, yeah, you shouldn't sacrifice yourself. Run and live another day. Sorry, sweetheart. Kisses her and passes out. People would be losing their minds about reversed Bill Cosby. People would be losing it. But are we supposed to be like, wow, that's so charming? It's awkward. You don't buy it. And, you know,
What's a reverse Bill Cosby? Is that a guy who wears just a regular plain colored sweater?
yeah, but he kisses, then he passes out. So that's the difference.
Drugs himself.
But that was just an awful scene. She just takes Finn's moment. I was prepared. I was ready. I was like, this is good.
Right. And
I
without
like
that
this.
moment, what purpose does Finn have?
And then she's, she has this speech about, don't destroy what you hate. It's like, you just literally doomed the resistance for all you know. Everyone you know and everyone you love will die. Oh, speaking of which, how did the One World Order, I just forgot what they're called.
The New World Order, sure.
How did they get so powerful all of a sudden? I know they blew up the core planets of the New Republic and a lot of their fleet, but don't they still control a considerable amount of the galaxy?
If you read Aftermath...
Oh, I have.
Oh.
It's been a really long time, though.
I don't even know if that was answered in there, so
I
you
think
called
a lot
my
of-
bluff.
I think a lot
have
of the
read
questions
Aftermath.
were, but
and that was
I don't
not
think
talked
that's
about.
the important thing. I think that the bad guys are always going to be somewhat strong. This is their
Right.
kind of their rise in this movie. But it is weird that this movie takes place immediately after The Force Awakens. They've just destroyed Starkiller Base, and you would think that they would have to rebuild a little bit, but no, they're just pushing forward.
Yeah, and that's another thing. No one responds to the call. Is everyone so afraid of the Empire still? I kind of get that, but seriously, the rebellion just destroyed an entire planet-sized base.
But there's a lot of people that are profiting off of this too, which was a big point too.
And I thought that would be a really interesting side plot. Speaking of which, this huge side plot is awful, and it speaks big about evil corporations and greed and people profiting off wars, which is a legitimately sad subject and something I was interested that they would actually talk about, because this is a real thing. I like that they talked about how these people they were evil. They only sold to the Empire. They were selling stuff to the rebels too, and that's how they're all so stinking rich. And I like because
War is good for business.
And I liked when they were talking about how it's the worst place in the galaxy and they go there. I was expecting it to be like a crime-ridden ghetto, but it's a very fancy, beautiful place filled with greedy people. But, they don't really go anywhere. They don't talk about it, really. They say, oh, they sell to both sides, and that's it. They talk about the greed and how evil these people are, but it just turned into a joke. Every 5 seconds, there's something serious and interesting going on, and then there's a joke. And I like jokes. I only make about 3 good ones a podcast, but I like jokes. And what gets me is whenever there's a serious moment, they have to kill the vibe with a joke, and it usually never delivers. It's just not funny. And then they have, they say things like slavery's bad, obviously, but they don't really go in depth with any of it. Animal cruelty is bad. We get it. They don't really go into it. Race horses are bad. And yeah, they're treated like crap, but they don't go into any of this. It's just preachy, and they're they're pretending to be deep, and it's really just bland. And the casino scene. What a waste of time. That entire subplot was a waste. I wanted to see more of Rey and Luke, because I really liked their chemistry. I thought it was very interesting. I want to have more scenes between Kylo Ren and Rey. More backstory, more interesting stuff with them, or even the other Resistance people with Leia. That was far more interesting than, wow, now this is Bantha, racing. Woo!
If you want to bulk up Phasma's character, maybe have her doing the Boba Fett thing and tracking them to the casino planet.
Right.
Give her something to do besides 2 minutes at the end to die.
Oh, I forgot a pro. I actually caught this in theaters. Poe's alien friend is a cafe from KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. I just realized that. That's a really cool detail. It's pretty nifty.
A cafe?
Yeah, they're like the catfish dudes.
Like Dexter Jexter's place?
Sadly not. That is the cafe are a race, and
McCafe?
But yeah, that's a little. I think they're that cool race of aquatic
The guy who's
people.
got the open flap on his face?
Yeah, or he looks like a Cathay from KOTOR, so I think that's a pretty cool detail. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a waste because I like at the end, they get caught and everything. But speaking of which, they hire this thief hacker guy who's, stuttering every 5 seconds or just making weird noises, and he's just kind of annoying. And it's like he betrays them. It's like, oh, and I'm kind of split about it at the end because I thought it was kind of interesting that they did the opposite of what they did with Captain Boomerang and Suicide Squad. He actually leaves, and I thought it was kind of interesting. But I thought it was him in that ATST.
Doing the opposite of Captain Boomerang is always the right structural move in a screenplay.
And he says, "This is wrong." That's what Finn says, and he says, "Maybe so," and then that's it.
Goodbye.
Yeah, it's pretty boring. And then and
well,
wow.
You know what? At least they freed the animals and not the kids.
Yeah, that made it all worth it.
Oh.
Who saved us?
No one can get back to work.
Yeah, the Finn and Rose subplot was just really bad. They go into the casino and it's like, wow, look at this CGI, guys. It's like they're trying to top the original casino what's it called? Cantina. From the original movie, like every time. I liked Ma's cameo in this movie.
Did you?
Yeah. I thought it was
it was forced.
Well, a little, but I thought it was kind of fun. But I liked her cantina
Anybody
in Force
else
Awakens.
wish that the cracker was Billy D. Williams?
Wow, that's
Bring
The
Lando.
cracker? Wow, Jeremy.
yeah. We prefer to call white folk.
Isn't that what they're called? The code breakers? Aren't they crackers? Or
I
Jeez,
wish
dude.
that they call them a lot of different things. I think they called them a cracker.
yeah, hunky cracker.
Connor gets it.
It's okay. We're one of
I
you.
think it would have been kind of cool to see Lando, but I don't see him hanging out on Canto Bight. I think those people, from what we've seen, are kind of the scum of the earth, and he's more on the up and up now. I wish maybe they would have called him potentially as opposed to Maz, though.
That would have been a
that
cool
would have
little
been a
cameo.
cool way to get him in the movie. Maz was completely unnecessary. Maz's castle was just destroyed like a few hours ago, and she's flying around in a jetpack that she got from Boba Fett. Like
Union disputes.
Labor disputes.
Oh,
Yep.
so another thing, why is the New Republic calling themselves the Rebels, like the Resistance? It's like that makes no sense. I think it would be way more interesting if they called themselves the New Republic, because that, and I think the First
How about
Order.
the One Republic?
Ooh.
I think the
One
first.
Direction.
Stop it! I think the first Order. Yeah, they should call them like rebels or rebel scum and all that kind of stuff, or the Resistance and stuff like that. But I think the rebels should call themselves the New Republic. Because it doesn't really make
That's
sense.
nitpicky. There's bigger fish to fry.
I'm not
Luke
saying
caught one.
I'm not.
Luke stabbed one and carried it.
I'm not saying it's a huge con. I'm just saying,
Pork
it's kind of a nitpick.
And then I remember when Luke stuck his tongue out to grab a fish off of that hang line, and it got stuck, and he twirled around and he fell.
Yeah.
Or is that Jar Jar too? I get that confused.
Yeah, and the casino subplot just made no sense. Back to my original point, they're just trying to top the cantina, and it's just an excuse to have some, awful CGI. Well, not awful, but just kind of like
Some
CGI.
awful.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, look at that one. He's a slug. Ooh, wow, look at that. Look at that. Did you not see the weird
Little Keenser guy
phallic
putting coins in
opera
the
singer
keychain?
lady who went
Yeah.
oh before she was
Oh.
trampled to death?
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Those little porcelain dolls of Groucho Marx walking around.
I do like that funny scene where the weird gremlin with the monocle was stuffing coins inside BB-8. I thought that was funny, but otherwise,
He was, voiced by Mark Hamill, by the way, or like played by and voiced by him. He did all the
Really?
CGI stuff.
That's
Dabuske
interesting.
is his name.
Well, that's
Yeah.
Dabuske.
But like Mark Hamill said, he's done some video game stuff, and he wanted a chance to do a CGI character, so they let him
cool.
do that.
yeah, but and again the Rose and Finn plot, once they free all, like Jordan said, they free all these weird wildebeest things, but they don't free the kids. Yeah, they don't free the kids that they saw who were enslaved. Awesome. Thanks, guys. You're the true heroes of the resistance.
It's not like they can take them back with them, I guess, just to give you that point. Like, you can't just let them free in the grass and let them run away, and you can't take them back.
Just flip them the bird. See ya, suckers.
Gave them a cool ring.
Who cares? They're still slaves. But yeah, and then they let them loose, and then they're just trampling down. They're just killing all these people. Maybe not all these people were just evil, greedy people selling weapons to the Empire. If you have money,
you're evil.
It's true. And then they're just running everyone down. That opera singer, the lady just liked to sing and show off her body. Kill her. Run her down.
Well, now she's showing off her body all over the place.
That's true.
Splattered.
You know, and again, like you said, I wish Captain Phasma had something to do in this movie. One of my ideas was that I wanted her to at least be, maybe instead of just some random citizen reporting them for parking on a beach, maybe it was she who actually, you know, like tracked them.
That was not a random citizen, Connor.
Oh my gosh.
That was Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
What? Really?
Yep, and his horrible voice acting. Oh, well, I told those guys they couldn't park there.
Really? That was so weird and out of place.
I didn't even realize that.
He made worse choices than Benicio del Toro in this.
Yeah.
Well, I just told him not to park over there. I'm an alien, you know.
You know, and I wish it was Captain Phasma who actually tracked them there, and she's like, "That's them," and then she starts opening fire, and it would actually,
ship
and they're building up that epic confrontation that we really didn't get between her and Finn, and you know, it's really lame. She has nothing to do in this movie. You know, she's marketed as this character. She's a strong, tough female villain who's in a position of power. Look up to her, girls. She's powerful and cool. She may be in only 3 minutes of this film, and she might be taken down more than Boba Fett
by a stormtrooper.
By an ex-stormtrooper.
Yeah, a janitor twice.
But girls, you better look up to her. She's cool. She has an important role, and that's weird. In all the marketing, she was marketed she has a far more important role in this movie.
That's the biggest problem is how much she was marketed and put in the promotional videos that you expected way more.
Yeah, it's like, you know, she's going to be have a really big part in this movie. Oh yeah, those very important 3 minutes of screen time.
Since she didn't in Force Awakens, like, well, she's in Last Jedi, so clearly they're going to make up for that in this one, and it was basically identical.
Yeah, and it just that really lame confrontation. Like, why does she just not switch to a like ranged weapon and shoot Finn? You know, but some nitpicks aside, Jordan, what are your cons?
I think you mean my cons. Listen, Benicio del Toro, to me, he's bad, and his acting choice is horrible. His character serves almost no purpose. His name is DJ. DJ.
It's
wow.
Star Wars.
What a cool Star Wars name.
You know who else was named DJ? DJ from Full House.
DJ Tanner, sure.
Oh,
but you know what DJ stands for?
Dance junkie?
Yes.
Yes.
Don't join.
Which
is a line that he says in this movie.
Don't join, kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
He
was about as bad, and me and Jeremy mentioned this a little bit earlier, not on the podcast, but he's as bad as Saw Gerrera. Like,
Boogale.
Yeah.
Oh, from Rogue One.
Whitaker from Rogue One's character.
Oh, we've got to get those two together.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
That is a side movie I would never watch.
Dude,
so,
that'd be crazy.
They're going for something here, and maybe it pays off at some point. I think, unfortunately, that character is still alive, because it seems like he took off before all the mayhem happened. So, oh gosh, I just don't know why he chose. Listen, I don't want to make fun of people who have stutters. It's a legit thing, but Benicio del Toro does not have one, and to just make it up and throw it in randomly, like if you don't have a stutter, like, to me, I'm just thinking, oh, he's choosing to stutter here. Like it seems really forced and weird, and it takes away from his interaction, and his interaction isn't that good to begin with.
Remember, kids, if someone has a stutter, they're evil.
all the new characters. Just getting to the new characters. There's 3 major ones that are new, at least that I can think of. You get Holdo, you get DJ, and you get Rose. And Rose is probably the strongest of the 3. And I didn't even care for Rose that much. Not that she's a bad character. I just didn't really care for what they gave her to do in this movie. Laura Dern's portrayal of Holdo's character was bad. It seemed out of place. Even my wife was like, yeah, she didn't seem like she was even aware that she was in a Star Wars movie.
Who?
That she
Purple
randomly
hair.
has purple hair, which
the
I think she
Admiral?
does in the books or whatever, but I don't know that. No one knows who she is. Well, Poe doesn't know who she is. The Resistance has like a couple hundred people left. How does he not know who one of the second in command, the second highest ranking person in the fleet is?
Because he didn't read the Leia novel.
Oh, gosh, dang it.
That
Well,
is
got me
true.
there. I just didn't care for her. It was something in her acting, and maybe she's a great actress. I think she has won some awards, but in this movie, I didn't like it whatsoever. Now, the character of Holdo does some cool things and offers some things. I just did not like Laura Dern's portrayal of Holdo.
Yeah, I like
I
that
did
she
not
like
like
warps
Benicio
right
del
into
Toro.
the ship.
And like I said, Rose was okay. Oh, man. What if Rose was from Jakku? She would be a desert rose.
Oh, not to is Rose
Now that's a stinger.
is Rose Ray's mom? Oh,
No.
you know one problem I do have with
There's
these.
a couple problems with that, Connor.
Yeah, I do have some problems with like the new universe that Disney has created. Like I don't know. I do miss a lot of the Legend stuff. I mean, the Legends wasn't perfect because you had that like crying mountain on Endor. Okay, that's a real thing, by the way. I'm not making that up. Look it up. But I do miss some cool characters, like the Yuzang Vong were a cool race that, like, they killed Chewbacca in Legends, and they invaded the galaxy. Where's Mara Jade? She was Luke Skywalker's wife in Legends. She was a cool character.
Don't be that guy.
What?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying
No,
that
I
Legends...
understand. Like, there is definitely some credence to the people that want to see some of the stuff that happened in the prequels, but Disney's not going to go pull...
Yeah.
Well, they'll
I'm
pull
not
some
saying they should,
storylines,
I'm
but they're
just
not going
saying.
to pull everything from the EU books.
Connor,
Right.
let the past die. Kill
Let
it
the past die.
if you must.
Kill it if you must.
Which I think is one of the best lines in the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I don't like change.
I got that.
It's coarse and rough.
What else you got, Jordan?
And we mentioned this a little bit. Hux is just reduced to a punchline in this movie after being a pretty major player in the first film and having that awesome speech, like you said.
Yeah.
There's a couple things where they're just joking with him. There's one scene where he talks to Snoke. He's like, excellent, you tracked him, whatever. But that's the only redeeming thing he does. He gets thrown into the wall in the ATM-6 or whatever, the new AT-AT.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was ridiculous. And he was a good character.
He should be the new
Yeah.
Tarkin.
He had that really lame
Exactly.
scene where Poe is like stalling for time, and he like prank calls the First Order, and he's like, "I'm looking for what's his name again?
Hux.
Hux. I'm looking
Dr.
for Hux."
Huxtable.
And he's like, "Can you hear me? Your time is up." And he's like, "Oh, I can't hear you. I'm on hold." It's like, are you guys laughing? I am. That was hilarious, and it's just lame. I agree with you. I wish he had more cool stuff to do with this in this movie.
Other than breakdancing on the bridge, that was kind of cool.
Like, I would rather have Hux have like the time that Phasma had. I wish Phasma had, like, if they reversed the amount of time they were on screen, so they would like reverse it. So Hux had only about 3 minutes, and maybe Phasma had a
And
lot
I
more.
liked Hux a lot in Force Awakens.
Right, but he had nothing to do here, and he was super like he was just a
Well,
snivering ginger.
Apparently, it was his idea to, however they were able to track the rebel ship, tied to the end of the string. I just wish we got more of how he did that. That was his plan, apparently. Or
Right.
at least he took credit for it. But
Yeah, there's definitely details on that. I know people were nitpicking that, and I saw a cool article about how in Rogue One, there's a line where, is it Jyn or so?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
She's on one of the ships, and she sees a schematic for hyperspace tracking.
oh
And
really?
She says something. Yeah, so it like completely ties into what they had established in Rogue One. So that at least makes sense. Now, like you said, having some explanation of that in this film would have been great and how it was working, other than the lead trip is tracking us, and if we take out the lead ship, then we'll have 6 seconds to escape or whatever.
Yeah.
But the entire Canto Bight storyline for me, same thing. I didn't really care for it. I don't need to see that rich one percenters that have a ton of money and wage war are bad guys, and that tasing animals is bad and making kids sleep in stables with animals is bad. Like, I already know that. I think most people know that. And I don't see how that ties in to this story. I mean, I did like some of the DJ stuff as far as his lines and saying basically that we'll blow you up today, they'll blow you up tomorrow. Like, it's war. Don't get out, don't join, like you mentioned, Jeremy. Yeah. But it just doesn't serve a meaningful purpose in the story that they're trying to tell. And that, just the chase scene that's going on, that is the slowest chase scene ever. And during that chase scene, we have the Millennium Falcon jump in, drop off Rey, and leave. Then we have Finn and Rose leave and then come back. So how is it that the Empire can't jump away and come back and blow up the ships? Why are they chasing them for 18 hours? That just seems slightly ridiculous. I know that they're cocky and they think that they got them and they're slowly picking off the ships one by one, but I don't know. Especially with how powerful Snoke is. Like, he doesn't see anything and he has the patience to sit there and wait 20 hours from the run out of gas. That just seems kind of ridiculous to me. I think just Finn's storyline in general is underwhelming. The Phasma fight was extremely underwhelming to me.
And it didn't matter. Like, everything they did never mattered.
Yeah,
in fact, they made it worse because somehow DJ was able to sell them out because of that. So they didn't shut the thing down and they sold out the Rebels. I don't even know how DJ would know about the Rebels cloaking plan to get on Crate, because Finn didn't know. But
if you boil this down too, most of this whole issue, all the issues in this movie are Poe's fault.
Yeah.
Because Poe's the one that says, hey, let's go on this mission. And he goes over Holdo's head and he helps him. And there's actually that other character. I can't remember her name, but she's in the opening scene of the movie and she's kind of helping Poe.
Is it Carrie Fisher's daughter?
Covers for him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She covers for Poe as well. But they escape and, he just he screws things up. And there's this Poe arc in the movie of basically him risking a ton of lives to take out that dreadnought, and then by the end of and then obviously he does the little mutiny thing, and then at the end of the movie when Finn wants to race out there and help Luke Skywalker, Poe's like, no, he's doing this for a reason, we have to go. So we kind of see it's a little forced, but we see him have this character arc of being this flyboy, as Holdo calls him, to basically being the new leader of the Resistance because Holdo's gone, and then Leia even says towards the end, he's like, what are you looking at me for? Follow him. So which is interesting that they made that scene choice before they knew Carrie Fisher was going to be gone, because they kind of set him up to be the leader even before she was gone. So I don't know. It's just that storyline didn't pay off. And not that I don't like that they did something where, because this is what Star Wars is. It's rebels. They're basically, looked at as terrorists in a certain light. They don't have someone who can crack a code. Like, that seems ridiculous to me. Yeah. So they have to go all the way to the other side of the galaxy where Cantonica is and go to the city Canobite, find a guy who's not even the right guy who can magically do this, and then he sells them out. So I kind of like the sense that a plan failed, but how much of the movie it took up when you have Luke Skywalker and Rey and the Kylo stuff and Snoke and all this going on, I just was not nearly as invested in that or the chase scene. I wanted more Kylo, Rey, Luke stuff.
Yeah. That's a great
and
point.
Chewbacca is completely underserved in this movie as well, as far as legacy characters go. He gets scenes with porgs, and aside from that and seeing Luke in one scene, he doesn't do much at all.
He's sitting in the cockpit the whole time, except for when he beat Luke's door down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan brought up a really good point. That it seemed, because I was actually really surprised that their plan failed. But the fact that it took up maybe about 30 to 40 minutes of screen time, because I was so excited, because every time it would cut back to their little side adventure in Cantinaville, I wanted it to go back to Snoke or to Rey and Kylo Ren or to Rey and Luke. I wanted it to be more about them than a boring side adventure that only served to, soak up time.
It was, I explained it to my friend as the Canto Bight stuff was a side mission in a video game. Like when you want to play the main story and you're super excited and they offer you this boring side mission, you're like, okay, and then you get halfway into it, you're like, man, this sucks. I wish I was doing the main story. That's all the Candlebite stuff was. And it didn't, like you said, Jeremy, didn't really serve much of a purpose whatsoever other than to introduce a character I cared nothing for. So really my last point is I just had some next movie predictions. I don't know if you guys had anything for that. But and some of the stuff is pretty simplistic. I think that for episode 9, obviously JJ's coming back for that. I think this movie has to skip forward, and I believe this movie was underserved by the point that it has to take place basically right after The Force Awakens happens. So you're kind of tied to giving characters growth, which we've never seen, by the way, in a Star Wars movie where it takes place right after the last one ended. I mean, we get Finn coming out of a perforated water balloon in the beginning because he's knocked out from the last movie. So there's no growth that can take place in between, and usually that opening crawl gives you some of that information, and then you can kind of backtrack and say, oh, remember when we did this or this happened. You could even cut to Rey and Luke training, and you don't even need to pick up exactly where you left off. So I think that hurts this movie a little bit. I think the next movie needs to skip forward several years.
Yeah, it has to. Because
of training, Rey's obviously going to have to start training some people. We need to see Kylo kind of get things back together, take control, put his stamp on the First Order. I think the Resistance obviously needs to be rebuilt because, like I said, there's about 40 people left, and no one came to answer the call. And I think we're going to see Rey make her own lightsaber. I don't know if that kyber crystal from the original lightsaber from Luke's blue saber can be reused or not.
Yes, because I looked at it the second time. She shows it at the end. It's
just
snapped
broken
in half, but you can see the blue kyber in the middle still. And they focused on that, so that's definitely what's going to happen.
That's awesome. And I wonder what her saber is going to look like. If it's just going to be kind of a copy of
It's going to be her staff.
She's going to be a staff. You think so?
I hope she gets the cool double, like maybe... Yep. Because I wonder what kind of Jedi she's going to be. I hope she's maybe a Jedi consular. I'm sorry. I'm making more KOTOR references.
I think that staff is too long to have blades on either end.
It'll be adjusted. That's okay. Her weapon of choice. She's gonna. Yeah. It's gonna be the anti-Darth Maul. We've never seen a light side, double-sided, saber.
Wouldn't that be cool if she had like a yellow lightsaber instead of like a blue or green one?
Yeah, but she only has the blue kyber.
Dude, I think we all know purple lightsaber is the coolest.
That's what I had in KOTOR.
That's what I had too.
It's a double-sided purple, but that's fine. Yeah. We got it.
Did I mention that I didn't like Luke milking the creature? Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, it was pretty hot.
That's pretty much all my cons.
I think we got all the cons. I actually thought of one, and I feel like we're harping on cons. And I really, really, really love this movie. But I thought of one while you guys were talking. The transport that Finn and Rose take to transport to the casino. Why aren't they just loading people in that and taking them off of the main ship? Since that's clearly not out of gas. They went all the way back to a far star system and all the way back before the rebels were destroyed. Yeah. They should just be transporting people off the planet. They can just jump them over to crates real quick. Like, why were they using that when gas was such an issue?
That's a really good idea. I didn't think about that.
Did they steal some gas?
Maybe.
It's kind of messed up. Because I know she was covering for them at some point. I think it was just when they took off. But
right.
I don't know.
And but yeah, because the lead ship could only track the main ship, so they should have just been getting people quickly out of there. Because
also Holdo could have just told Poe. But Poe should ask. It's both their faults. It's more Poe's fault than hers, but it's just ridiculous. It's like I'm watching friggin' some soap opera show or CW show where someone doesn't tell someone a really important piece of information and drama ensues.
Like Arrow.
And somebody dies, and then it's like, oh man.
And that leads into my biggest con that we haven't covered, because I think we've basically covered everything. And that's, I get that the whole theme of this movie was failure, and that Poe is a hotshot pilot that would rather blast and think things through. But not letting him in on the plan, even after he mutinies, is just madness. All she had to do is he was even at one point like, just tell me there's a plan. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, I'm not going to just tell
lay a speech.
Why can't she just tell him there's a plan? Why the secrecy? Like, I understand that you don't want to give him in on too much because he might destroy that plan. He's a hotshot. He might try and do something else and destroy the plan.
Yeah.
But at least say, yes, there is a plan. No, we're not just going to sit here and die.
it could have been like because she even tells him like we're gonna keep going, get the ships ready, like the escape pods. Like, come on. I wish there was a line of exposition or something that maybe they think there's a traitor within the rebellion. That's how they're being tracked, and maybe that's why she doesn't want to tell
That's
him.
what I was
don't know.
thinking.
Yeah,
Just
that'd
give me
be good.
something, some
Right.
reason why she wouldn't.
Right, something. Any reason at all. All right, I think we covered all that. Jordan, you have a next time on before we rate these?
I thought about it, but I didn't think we were going to do that, so I did not.
Okay,
I didn't write
I
anything.
didn't either. Okay. Connor, what do you give The Last Jedi? And where do you put it in terms of the Star Wars sagas?
Oh, I was not
You've
prepared
seen it for
the-
2 hours, so fine.
I was
Just
not
put it in
pre-
its place.
Oh, can you guys go? I'm still
I do have something
pondering.
when Connor's done.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not even. I didn't think about this.
Did you rate it?
I'm still very conflicted about my rating.
It's tough to give a rating to a new movie, especially one you literally saw today.
Right.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'll give it in a second. I'll
Okay.
see what you guys think.
Sure. Jordan, you got something?
Yeah, so actually, like I talked about how I wanted this movie to skip forward several years. It actually skips forward 30 years. And Kylo Ren's pant line gets even higher. He gets the even higher waisted pant lines that go up like over his chest.
He becomes Urkel.
Yes.
He like slashes a
Those are Steve
panel.
Urkel. Those pants were like, what were those? That was like a pant shirt combo.
Oh
Right,
yeah. I just
yeah.
wanted to have him
Ray's
have
like,
like
can you put something on?
I want him to have like a temper tantrum, and he's like slashing a panel, and some of his subordinates are just looking at him funny. He's like, "Did I do that?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think some of the race stuff, the communication between the Force, I thought that was cool. But some of the lines that Kylo had, especially like the opening lines, like "Are you there?" Like it was kind of weird. But
Yeah.
the performances of this movie were really good. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8. I don't really have anything snappy to say, so I'll just give it an 8. Episode 8s.
Yeah, that's
How
what
about that?
I gave it an 8 also, an 8, episode 8s.
Oh,
And
perfect.
That would I think that puts it right there with Force Awakens to me. I really enjoy Force Awakens too. I think they're very close. They're very different, but very close. But I don't think they touch A New Hope or Empire,
Oh,
which would be probably 10s.
you guys might.
Yeah.
I've come to a conclusion. Some people might be kind of like, that's an okay score. Some people might hate me. Some people will be like,
and
that's
it's
pretty
something that
indecisive.
could change a year down the line too, Connor. This is just
Or a
initial.
week.
I
Yeah,
give
exactly.
this movie a 6.
Okay.
A 6. Better luck next time.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's fair. I think this to me is about a point or half a point higher than Force Awakens. I like Force Awakens. I thought this movie made much bolder choices and gave us far superior scenes. But yeah, I'm really excited for episode 9. And I believe they set the release date for May of 2019.
Yeah, and Solo
So,
comes out May
year
of
and a half
18.
away.
So.
Oh.
Yeah. So a
I
year
think-
between films. That's not bad. 6 months until Solo comes out.
Right. Yeah. We
Oh,
haven't seen
and
it.
also, I mean, I guess we should have seen the Snoke death coming and Rey not joining with Kylo
Yeah.
because Kylo's always been solo.
Always been Solo. He always has.
I almost forgot to squeeze that joke in there.
Oh, thank God we made it.
Thank God we saved it.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're close to me because I think Last Jedi has more like highs than Force Awakens, but I also think its lows are lower than Force Awakens.
Yeah,
so.
I would say that Force Awakens is maybe
Some
a
would say
5.
they're solo.
You got your joke, Jordan.
sorry that I'm being that dead
you
father.
you crossed the line, dude.
Oh man.
Well, that should just about do it for this special episode of Star Wars Trek. Thanks for everybody listening. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Solo. We haven't seen anything from Solo, but I'm sure it's gonna be great.
You're my favorite human.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.